This podcast episode was recorded live at the American Camp Association National Conference in Nashville, Tennessee. Hello and welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast, where each week we talk about ideas for raising kids who become thriving adults. I'm your host, Audrey. I'm a summer camp director, writer, and speaker, and I've had the privilege of working with thousands of children, teenagers, young adult counselors, and parents over the past 3 decades. My husband, Steve, and I are raising 5 kids who currently range in age from 15 to 25. So my interest in raising kind, optimistic, self-reliant kids who become thriving adults is personal as well as professional. All right, well, welcome to this episode of the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. This is really fun. This is my first live recording at a camp conference. Woo! Yeah. We're here at CodaCon 2019 in Nashville. Where are we? What's the name of this hotel?
Grand Ole Opry.
The Grand Ole Opry. It is huge, and we're all finding our way around here. And I have a panel of super experienced camp directors, and today we're going to talk about great parents and some of the things that parents do that really partner with us, collaborate with us to help us create wonderful camp experiences for their kids. So let's see who we have here on the panel today.
My name's Maggie Brown, and I direct WeHaKee Camp for Girls in northern Wisconsin.
My name is Sari Hirsch, and I am one of the directors at Chippewa Ranch Camp in Eagle River, Wisconsin.
I'm Mike Endres, director of Camp Chippewa for Boys in northern Minnesota.
I'm Cole Kelly, director of Camp Weequahic, which is in northeastern Pennsylvania for girls and boys.
Hi, I'm Jason Feldgreber. I'm the owner and director of Camp Menominee in northern Wisconsin for boys.
Awesome. Well, we have quite a crew here. So, I think in the kind of education camp world, we work with a lot of kids, and sometimes we get a little frustrated with parents. And sometimes when we get together, we can end up focusing on that one kind of fringe, crazy parent from the summer. But today we're going to flip the script and talk about those awesome parents who make it so pleasant to work with their children and who help us do a great job partnering with them to create these great summer camp experiences. So who would like to start and share a story of a great parent and something that they did?
Besides leaving us alone?
Or bringing cookies.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Those are always fun too.
Actually, cookies are good, especially if you're in a remote setting or if someone brings you a coffee or cookies. Sometimes it's quite nice.
So we have a family that actually is from Paris, France, who's been with us for a number of years, and she literally brings a box of cookies and whatnot from Paris every summer. So you're number one, kind of. That's a lovely thing. But like you said, it's when they kind of let us do our jobs,
right?
Or support us in doing our jobs. Those are the
I think
ones.
Trusting us is the biggest deal. My favorite parents are the ones that answer all of the camp forms and write too much and send us up with the full behavioral plans and stuff that's working at home. And when we call them, they'll follow our lead on their letters to the kids. They'll support us on the phone with us and also support us in what they're saying to their kids, which is a big deal because we've had the opposite happen a number of times.
I think it's great when parents actually call and ask a lot of questions before camp even starts.
Yes.
So that if you can have 20, 30 minutes on the phone with some parent sending their child away for the first time, and they ask all these great questions about safety, about supervision, about games and activities. If they ask all of those, it's just the great start.
And so many, unfortunately, feel like they shouldn't. It's like, oh, I'm sorry I have so many questions. Like, I'm so happy you
exactly.
did.
I'm taking up too much of your time. I'm like, no, you're not. This is what I would rather do with every parent than not. So.
And I think, too, in this email era, I mean, we all just sit around staring at our computers waiting for an email from the next person. I think all of us camp people like working with people and kids and parents. So I think most of us would rather have a conversation on the phone with a parent, wouldn't you say, than to do some big, long email exchange. Okay, what else we got? Ideas of great parent.
Well, I was thinking of building relationships, which is what we all do so very well, and it's fun to get those legacy campers start to come to camp. And so it's usually, for us, in our case, it's the dad who's all in, and it's generally the mom that's kind of like, I'm not really sure about this. So for our younger boys, they can come for 2 weeks. Our boys going to 3rd, 4th, or 5th. So we had a boy from Houston come for his first 2 weeks. He gets off the plane, his dad greets him right away and says, Dad, that was fantastic. I want to stay for 8 weeks next year. And he's like 8-year-old little boy. And he goes, that's great. Please go tell your mom you love her first before you tell her. And so it's those relationships. It's neat to see that kind of development occur in the kids.
Sure.
Great story. I love telling that one.
Yeah, it's good.
We had a staff parent, and sometimes staff parents actually can be the most difficult ones to deal with. We had a staff parent who I thought handled something perfectly, where he had a much younger son that really wanted to be in the bunk, but I was hesitant. I mean, this kid was 6, and usually you have to be at least 7 to go into a bunk. And so he was there during orientation, and he kept going up to his dad and said, "Can you ask Big Cole if I can come be in a bunk?" And the dad said, "No, you need to go ask Big Cole yourself." And so he did, and we had a nice conversation. And I said, "If you can show me over the course of this week that you can do stuff on your own, then okay." So fast forward a couple days later, in the dining hall, you see the little guy taking his tray up to the trash can, teetering and tottering, the milk splashing a little bit, and the dad is about to swoop in and grab it, and I hear the little boy goes, "No, Dad, I gotta show Big Cole I can do it myself." And he backed away, and I started crying like, "You're in the box, enough. But to have parents say, "No, you need to step up and start doing this on your own," because that's what we're trying to do at camp, is build that independence.
And I do think that that's a really good point. Some of our best parents are those who prepare their kid. So they call and they ask us all of the questions, and then they let their child know what to expect and how they can be successful at camp. No, I'm not going to come pick you up. You might get sad, and here are some things that you can do. But to set their kid up for success even before he or she arrives at camp, I think is
Huge.
Yeah, that's key, because it's really easy to talk a big game with your kids before they get there, but when you get that first bad letter and you're sitting at home, and we always say it's always easier to be a first-time camper than a first-time parent, because the parents are sitting there waiting to see that next picture, waiting to see whatever that is, and so it's easy to overreact to that first thing. So the ones that call us and talk it through with us and stick with it before that overreaction are the great ones.
I think it's great when a parent calls when they get that first letter home. After, and by then for us it's like 5 days. I mean, it takes 4 days to get a letter anywhere from camp, right? So really a whole bunch of time has gone by since the child wrote that letter, but that gives us a chance to then tell the whole story. Yes, that's what she was like on day 1, day 2, and this is then what we did. And then there's the back and forth conversation too. I think it's really, again, it's a positive opportunity for us to share what's going on at camp in that time when the child grew so much. And then hopefully then they'll let us do what we do and continue to support that child. So it works out well, I think.
So when they make that call, what should a parent say? Like they get that sad letter, or what's an appropriate way to approach us that we're like, "Yes, I love working with you"? What are some of the ways that when they call, what kinds of things can they say to sort of, be supportive of what we're doing?
Well, I think the acknowledgement that they hopefully understood that there was going to be some growth and challenge to their child. And so I think just starting out by acknowledging, first of all, this was probably 3 or 4 days ago. This was the date on the letter, and I'm sure some things have happened. Why don't you tell us more about what's been going on? And I think that that's the best way, is just to say, tell us the story. And then we can move from there if maybe there hasn't been a lot of change and we need some more strategies. I think you were mentioning strategies that parents could say, well, when this happens at home, or this might have happened at another time, and this is what we did.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great. I was thinking that with the letter situation, I think some parents don't call. They feel like we were talking before when you were saying you like it when they call and ask a lot of questions before. I think we would all agree we want them to call, right? If their kid, if they get a letter that's like sad or not getting along with someone, we want to hear so we know that we've resolved it or can work with them to make sure we resolve it. So I think that's another thing. Sometimes parents don't realize that being a great parent often means calling us. Like they might think that we don't want to hear from them, but we do, right?
I also think patience for parents is really important, because they might get that letter, they might present something to us that could be the first time that we're hearing about it. Hopefully it's not if we're really engaging, but once in a while you'll get that call, and I appreciate the parents who give us time to look into it and make sure that we're looking out for their kid and not calling in an accusatory manner. That's always really important. It's the tone, and that can't be easy for a parent. Take a deep breath and make that call without getting worked up and feeling anxious. So I guess that's part of our job, to kind of break down those barriers and make sure we're talking through it.
And I think there is that balance of like, when do you get that first letter as a parent, say, "Oh, here's my tear-stained circle, come pick me up." And then when do you jump in? And we've all had this, I think, as directors. Then that next letter goes home, and the food's good. And then the next letter goes home, like, camp is great. And next letter is, I can't wait till next year. And a lot of parents save those letters and share them with us. And then you just kind of go, yes, there is that growth.
That's the option.
And you feel that. And that's like, okay, puts wind in your sails for what we do.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up another point, I think, just in terms of a great parent is one that fills out the evaluation at the end of the season, at the end of the summer, and tells us specific things that they thought went well or things that they didn't go well. Or they write and say, my daughter wrote this or told us this on the way home in the car. So again, not stopping that communication just because the session is over. And registering for next year is a great thing too, but just kind of getting that feedback from them and knowing sort of what the positive and specific parts of that experience were so that we can just build on it for the
And to
next
feel
time.
comfortable sharing that feedback, even if their son or daughter isn't coming back to camp. Like, even if they've aged out, there's been a couple times where parents have called in February or March to say, well, I want to talk to you about this because we weren't sure he was coming back, but now he wants to, so we're going to address this issue. And my thought is always, well, let's try and think about the entire community, and if possible, like, let's try and have these conversations even if your son's not coming back, because maybe these are issues that we could have fixed or mediated as it relates to the rest of the camp and not just one camp.
And we'll be more prepared going forward, because it's so much of what we do is based on the training that we're able to provide our staff. And the more information we get from feedback from families, and sometimes, there's 3 or 4 different sides to every story.
Right.
So then it gives us a chance to really kind of investigate and try to figure out what's going on now that things have kind of calmed down.
Right.
And then prepare for it.
And we ask our kids to buy into the community. We ask our staff to. So we should ask our parents to.
Oh, absolutely. Well, when you get down to it, we're partnering with the parents.
100%.
So I love those parents that call me with a little giggle in their mouth saying, I got a letter. It's like, okay, now I know it's, they're on board. It was a sad letter. That's the way to me to approach me with it. And then you can say, all right, let's figure this out. Because a day at camp is like a week, and a week is like a month. So everything changes like that anyway. So.
Now, my other thought, I think, as you're all talking, we would all agree. Maybe all of your camps are perfect and every day goes perfectly. And every kid's happy all the time, but I know mine is
Sun's always
not.
shining.
Yeah. So I think that one of the things that parents need to recognize is just like with their school or any other place where their kids are coached, teams, everything is, it needs to be a partnership, and not every day is going to be great. And we want to make it great, though. So we can't do that unless we feel like we can talk to them and that they're going to trust us. And I love the parents who call and say, I got this letter. It doesn't sound accurate. However, can you look into this? Whatever their kid is saying. If they just kind of defer a little bit and know that, we've been doing this a long time. We know about these letters. Boy, a lot of times kids write some really extreme things when they're feeling homesick. They are trying to figure out what they can say that will get their parent to come get them. And so they'll stop at nothing, and they're being tortured, and there's no food, and there's all these issues. And so when the parent can recognize that the letter might be a slight exaggeration when they call, I think that's kind of helpful too.
Definitely. And I think no camp is a utopia, as you mentioned, a little bit by design. We're not creating these challenges for the kids, but we know that they're going to be there, and that's a part of the experience. And I think the parents that embrace that, even if in the moment this is such a struggle for me, my kid is 500 miles, but at the end to say, I'm happy she had that experience, or wow, she's going to know how to, solve this problem, navigate this issue at home when this happens. To take a step back, I think, is a great thing for a parent.
Well, I think it's neat too, because all our staff, they don't have a lot of credentials after their name, but yet the amount of supervision campers get is way more than I think they get at home. And so when they are in some of those situations that are uncomfortable, there's somebody there, not always to fix it, but to be there for them and just do that connection.
Yeah, so I think the parents they're being great even if they're at home crying about the letter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's still okay.
Absolutely.
As long as they call us and say, oh, I'm really upset about this. Can you look into this or something like that? It's fine. They don't have to be immune to being worried about their child or their child being in some kind of discomfort. I don't think any of us would expect that. No, we wouldn't be that way with our kids who were uncomfortable somewhere. But I think what we're saying is be uncomfortable, trust us, call us. I've talked to crying parents many times that they're sad about their child being away, especially the first time. And we like that relationship thing. It comes back to, we're here with you and we know that this is hard for you and it's sometimes hard for your kid. And we want to partner with you and hopefully have your child be one of those ones who we still know down the road when they're a counselor, and we can laugh at that, first week of camp from, 8 years before. We have this bigger picture than the parents have. So I think that's a really good part of this. Any other thoughts that anyone wants to share, that any stories or just really fun, positive things, your favorite parents over the years?
I would just say I really like when parents send letters to their children that are really helpful, and even though they're boring, like, please tell me your 4 activities and was the water cold, and just kind of blah letter, but to keep the camper engaged in what's going on at camp, and then to write back. So these were the activities I did, kind of coaching their child from away. I think that's really helpful. And a lot of parents, don't have a lot of time, or they're busy and they're doing things, and so they get the 1 or 2 line emails or whatever, to their camper. And it's so great when a parent takes the time to really write a nice newsy letter and inquiring about what the camper's doing at camp. So I think that's another great sign of a parent who's partnering with us to help.
For sure.
It's been neat too to see some of our parents grow in a lot of ways. We had a boy who was 7 that came to camp all the way from the Los Angeles area, and so his dad brought him to camp for about 3 years, and the camper was ready to go every year. It's like, Dad, you can go home now. And this is the first year, or last year was the first year that he said, yeah, I think I'm ready, that I don't have to go to camp. and it was great. Thanks, Dad. So it is neat to see that growth as well in our parents.
Yeah.
I think it's nice when parents have a good sense of humor with their kids too. We had a young kid and a dad who had a special relationship where they would tell each other like yo mama jokes back and forth, and so the kid asked the dad to send a bunch in an email, and he did, but he copied and pasted ones that were way should never be put in a 3rd and 4th grade cabin. And he sent the email and called me 10 minutes later. He's like, hey, you got to dig through the hundreds of emails and pull this one out because I sent the wrong jokes to my son. But at least and that was his son's first time away, and he was trying to make him comfortable. And so I appreciated the mistake, even though it's nice when parents are he caught it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
The parent who will admit that, whoops, I might have
done
something wrong. Yeah, that's good. Okay, well, this has been really great. Thanks for joining me for this conversation about great parents. I think it's good for all of us to focus on the majority of our parents who are really fun to work with. And there's only a few that make our summers a little more challenging.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had such a great time chatting with these fellow camp professionals, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation. For photos from the event, as well as links to some of the topics we discussed, as well as the names and information about each of the camps we talked about at this event, visit my website at sunshine-parenting.com and search for episode 76. I think it's so important as a parent that we remember that there are many other people out there to partner with to help us raise kids who become thriving adults. So I'll end this episode with one of my favorite quotes. Alone we go fast. Together we go far.
This podcast is a proud member of Parents on Demand, a network of high-quality shows for families just like yours. Download our free network app on Apple and Android and listen to your favorite episodes on the go.